Imagine a perfect world for a second. Or, well, at least a perfect network.
That sounds incredibly peaceful.
Right. Because in this utopia, the network is just a closed box. Picture a room with, 3-foot-thick concrete walls.
No windows.
No windows, and exactly one door that is completely welded shut. We know every single person inside this room. We trust them with our lives.
Sounds like a terrible business model, though.
It really does. But in this room, no one ever breaks a rule. No one clicks a link they shouldn't. And absolutely no one is trying to pry open an air vent with a screwdriver.
Yeah, but in reality, a network that doesn't talk to anyone is just a room full of really expensive paperweights.
Exactly. To do actual work, we have to put doors in those concrete walls.
We need to connect to the internet.
Right. And we have partners who need access. Remote workers logging in from coffee shops, mobile phones, tablets.
Basically, we've taken that perfect closed concrete box and turned it into Swiss cheese.
Just for the sake of convenience.
Yeah, and every one of those those doors we build just so we can check email or access a cloud server.
They're potential entry points.
Exactly. Entry points for someone who definitely was not invited to the party.
And that is exactly what we are unpacking in our deep dive today. So welcome. We have a massive stack of source material here covering the absolute fundamentals of security architecture.
And we aren't just talking about the Hollywood version of hacking here.
Oh, you mean the guy in the dark hoodie typing furiously while techno music plays in the background?
Right. Yeah, not that. We're going much deeper. We're looking at the actual structural engineering of a network.
Like how passwords have evolved from basically writing them on a sticky note to using complex cryptographic math.
We're talking about firewalls that can actually read the traffic passing through them.
And even the physical security of that internet plug in the wall right next to your feet, the one you probably don't even think about.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive is to take you from a closed box mentality to what the experts call a defense in depth strategy.
Layering protection from the very edge of the network right down to the switch port. So grab your virtual hard hat because we are inspecting the building today.
And that building analogy from the source material is actually the perfect place to start. It uses this really clear comparison to explain the vocabulary of danger.
Yeah, I found this really helpful because people tend to use these words interchangeably. But to a security architect, they mean very, very different things.
Completely different things. It breaks down 4 big terms: vulnerability, exploit, threat, and mitigation.
Okay, so let's stick with the building for a second. What is a vulnerability in this context?
A vulnerability is just a weakness. In our building, that's an unlocked window. Or maybe a door with a cheap rusty hinge.
It doesn't mean you've been robbed yet.
Exactly. It just means there's a hole in your defense.
Okay, so the window is the vulnerability. Then what's the exploit?
The exploit is the specific tool or the method used to take advantage of that weakness.
So if the window is the vulnerability, the exploit is the pry bar used to force it open.
Right. Or the actual skill required to pick the lock on that rusty door.
Got it. So you have a weakness and you have a tool to use against it. But a pry bar just sitting on the ground isn't dangerous by itself.
Precisely. You need agency. You need the threat.
The person holding the pry bar?
Yes, that's the threat. The malicious actor, the potential for harm, the person who actually wants to get inside your building.
And finally, we don't just stand there and watch them break in, right? We install a stronger lock or maybe a motion sensor.
Or bars on the window. And that is the mitigation.
Mitigation.
And there's a key point from the research here. Mitigation usually doesn't remove the vulnerability entirely.
Because you still need the window to let the light in?
Exactly. You can't just brick it up. So mitigation is about reducing the risk, making the exploit much harder to execute.
Okay, so in the network world, we have these threats holding their digital pry bars. What exactly are they doing with them?
Well, one of the first things the material dives into is spoofing.
Which sounds like a comedy routine, but I gather it is not funny at all.
Not funny at all. No. Spoofing is all about disguise. It's the art of pretending to be someone you aren't.
Because in a network, trust is often based on addresses, right?
Exactly. If I receive a data packet from a specific return address, I tend to trust it.
So IP spoofing is like sending a letter with a fake return address.
Yes. I send a malicious packet to your server, but I paint the return address of your CEO's computer on it.
And your server thinks, oh, this is from the boss, come right in.
Right. And the notes mention it gets even more granular with MAC address spoofing.
The MAC address, that's the hardware fingerprint, right?
Yeah, every piece of hardware, your laptop, your printer, smartphone, it has a unique fingerprint burned into the network card. the media access control or MAK address.
Okay.
Security filters often say only allow the printer with MAT address XYZ. Well, if I'm a hacker, I can just change my laptop software to broadcast that printer's address instead.
So you're literally wearing the printer's ID badge.
And the network just holds the door open for me.
Wow, that sounds really tricky to catch. Now, we often hear about websites crashing because of attacks. The sources distinguish between DOS and DDoS.
Right.
Is that just a difference in how angry the hacker is?
It's a matter of scale, really. Scale and logistics. A denial of service, or DOS, is like one person standing in front of a receptionist and shouting so loud that no one else can get service.
That's disruptive.
Sure. But the security guard or the firewall administrator can usually just grab that one person and kick them out. You just block that one IP address.
Problem solved. But a DDoS.
Distributed denial of service. Now imagine that attacker has used malware to infect 10,000 other computers around the world.
A botnet?
A botnet. A zombie army.
I really like that image, a zombie army.
The attacker commands all 10,000 zombies to call the receptionist at the exact same second.
Oh, wow.
The phone lines jam, the receptionist quits the lobby, completely fills up. You can't just block the source because the traffic is coming from everywhere.
Like grandma's iPad in Florida.
A smart fridge in London, a server in Tokyo. It completely overwhelms the system.
That is terrifying. And the material mentions something called reflection and amplification attacks. This sounded almost like network judo to me, like using the system's own weight against it.
That's a really great way to put it. In a reflection attack, the attacker spoofs the victim's IP address and sends a request to a third party.
Wait, so I send a request to a server, but I put your address as the return address.
Right. So the server replies to me thinking I asked for it. I'm the victim getting flooded with mail I didn't even order.
Okay.
Now you combine that with amplification. The attacker sends a trainee request, maybe 60 bytes, to a server that's configured to send back a massive reply, like 3,000 bytes.
Oh, I see. It's like I order a pizza to your house, but I order 1,000 pizzas.
Yes.
I made one quick phone call, and now you have to deal with 1,000 boxes blocking your driveway.
Exactly. It crushes your bandwidth with very little effort from the attacker.
There was one more attack type in this section that really stood out to me. It felt less like a siege and more like a spy operation. The man in the middle, specifically ARP poisoning.
This one is insidious because it's all about eavesdropping. In a local network, devices use the Address Resolution Protocol, or ARP, to find each other.
Okay, how does that work?
Your laptop basically yells out who has the router's IP address. And the router replies, I do here is my MS address.
Like a roll call?
Like a roll call. But the problem is ARP has no ID check. It trusts whoever answers first.
Oh, no.
So in ARP poisoning, an attacker sits on the network and just waits for that shout. When you ask for the router, the attacker jumps in and says, that's me.
So my computer thinks the hacker is the router.
Yes. So you send all your emails, your passwords, your data directly to the attacker.
And they just read it.
They read it, they record it, and then this is the really clever part. They forward it to the real router so you don't even notice your connection is broken.
They are literally sitting in the middle of the conversation.
Listening to absolutely everything.
Okay, before we move on to the human element, we have to quickly clear up the malware definitions. I feel like people use virus and worm interchangeably, but the source makes a really hard distinction.
It's important to know the difference because the cleanup is different. A Trojan horse is software that looks legitimate, maybe a free game or a screensaver, but it hides malice inside.
So it requires you, the user, to install it.
Right. It needs an accomplice.
Okay. And a virus.
A virus acts like a biological virus. It injects itself into another piece of software like a parasite. It needs a host file, like a Word doc, and it usually needs a human to share that file to spread it.
Okay, got it. And the worm?
The worm is the nightmare scenario. It doesn't need a host file, and it doesn't need a human to do anything at all.
It just moves on its own.
Yeah,
Right.
It uses network vulnerabilities to replicate itself automatically. It scans for an open door, copies itself over scans for the next door. It can sweep across the internet in minutes.
Okay, so we have worms crawling through the wires. But the source material makes a really strong point here. Often the biggest vulnerability isn't the code. It's the carbon-based life form sitting in the chair.
The human element. Social engineering. You can have the best firewall in the world costing millions of dollars. If I can call your employee and convince them to read me their password, the firewall doesn't matter.
We've all heard of phishing, right? Those emails from a mysterious prince wanting to give you millions. But the variations are getting really sophisticated.
They are. Standard phishing is a wide net, sending generic lures to thousands of people hoping just one bites. But then you have spear phishing.
Spear phishing.
That's when I research you. I know you work in accounting at a specific company. I sent an email that looks like it's from your CFO referencing a project you're actually working on.
Wow, that's much harder to spot. Honestly, I'd probably click that if I was in a hurry.
Most people would. And if I target the CEO or a high-ranking executive specifically, that's called whaling.
Whaling. Because you're going after the big fish with the deepest access.
Exactly. And it's not just email anymore. You have vishing and smishing.
Vishing and smishing.
Vishing is voice phishing. Scam calls. This is Microsoft support. We detected a virus. Smishing is SMS or text message phishing. Your bank account is locked. Click here. All the same psychological trick. Urgency and fear.
There were two other terms in this section that were totally new to me. Farming and watering hole.
Those are really clever because they don't even rely on a lure. Farming is when the attacker compromises the map, not the destination.
What do you mean the map?
They hack the DNS server or your computer's host file. So you type in your actual bank's website, a legitimate address, but your computer is secretly redirected to a fake site that looks identical.
Wow. So you didn't click a bad link. You typed the right address and still got hacked.
Exactly. And the watering hole. Think of a lion waiting by the river.
Okay.
The attacker knows their target, say engineers at a specific aerospace firm, visits a specific obscure forum or industry news site every morning.
So they infect that site.
Right. They don't attack the company directly. They poison the water the employees drink from.
It really shows that you have to be vigilant everywhere. Okay, so let's talk about locking the front door. We're moving into device access and passwords.
Right.
The source material had this fascinating history of how Cisco handles passwords. It's like watching an arms race in slow motion.
It really is an arms race. In the early days, we had type 0 passwords.
Type 0.
That's literally clear text. If you looked at the configuration file, the password was just sitting there. Password 123.
Clearly a terrible idea.
Anyone looking over your shoulder or viewing a backup file could read it. So they introduced type 7.
Okay, type 7.
Right. They used a command called service password encryption. It scrambled the password so it didn't look like English anymore. And the source is very emphatic about this. Type 7 is just security theater.
Security theater.
Yeah.
How weak is it?
It uses a reversible cipher. You can literally copy a type 7 password, paste it into a website, and decrypt it in milliseconds. It's basically just hiding the password from casual view, not securing it from a real hacker.
So what's the actual solution then?
The hashing revolution.
Yeah.
This is where the enable secret command comes in. Instead of encryption, which is two-way, meaning you can lock and unlock it, hashing is one way.
One way.
You turn the password into a mathematical fingerprint.
So you can turn the cow into a hamburger, but you can't turn the hamburger back into a cow.
That is a very vivid analogy. But yes, the system never stores the actual password. When you log in, it grinds your input into a fingerprint and compares it to the one on file.
Okay, that makes sense.
The old standard was MD5, which was type 5. It was good for a long time, but computers got faster and became easier to crack. Now we advise using SHA 256. That's type 8 or 9.
And that's better.
Much better. That uses algorithms like script, which are computationally very expensive to break.
Computationally expensive, I like that phrase. It basically means it takes too much time and energy to be worth it for the hacker.
Ideally, yes.
But relying on just a password on a router isn't really scalable for a big company. That's where this acronym AAA comes in.
AAA. Authentication, authorization, and accounting. Think of it like a high-security nightclub.
Okay.
Authentication is the bouncer at the door, checking your ID. Who are you?
Right.
Authorization is the VIP list. Okay, you're John, but are you allowed in the VIP lounge? Or just the main floor? What can you do?
And accounting.
Accounting is the guy with the clipboard following you around all night. What did you actually do while you were here?
And this is usually handled by a central server, right? Not the individual router.
Yes. Instead of programming 500 passwords on 500 routers, the routers just ask a central server, hey, John, I'm trying to log in. Is he cool?
And the main protocols for this are Radius and TACAS Plus, right?
Yep. Radius is an open standard, and TACAS Plus is Cisco proprietary.
Any major difference between the two?
TACAS Plus is generally considered more secure for device administration because it encrypts the entire conversation between the router and the server.
Oh, and Radius doesn't.
Radius only encrypts the password part. It's like wisping the password but shouting your name and your request across the room.
Got it. And of course, we can't talk about access without mentioning MFA.
Multi-factor authentication. It is absolutely vital. It combines things. Something you know like a password.
Yeah.
Something you have like a token or your phone. And something biometrics like a fingerprint.
Using just one is asking for trouble nowadays.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've secured the device login. Now let's look at the perimeter, the heavy artillery, firewalls, and IPS. The source talks about stateful firewalls. What does that mean? Does the firewall have emotions?
Not quite, no. But it does have a memory. To understand this, you have to know that a basic router is stateless. It's basically a goldfish.
A goldfish.
Looks at the packet, makes a decision, and forgets it immediately.
Like, who are you? Okay, go ahead. Who are you? Okay, go ahead.
Exactly. A stateful firewall keeps a clipboard. It tracks the state of connections. If you inside the network start a conversation with a website, the firewall writes it down. Internal user A asks for data from Google. When Google replies, the firewall checks its clipboard. Oh yeah, we asked for this. Let it in.
And this leads into the concept of security zones, right?
Yes, the philosophy of inside-outside in the DMZ. The default rule is simple. The inside that's us can initiate talk to the outside the internet. But the outside cannot initiate talk to the inside.
And the DMZ, demilitarized zone, right? Sounds very military.
It's a buffer area. If you have a public web server, you put it in the DMZ.
Yeah.
The internet can talk to the DMZ, but if that server gets hacked, the attackers are still stuck in the buffer zone.
They can't easily get to the inside where the sensitive stuff is.
Exactly where your database lives.
Smart. Now, alongside firewalls, we have IPS, intrusion prevention systems. How is that different from a firewall?
Well, if a firewall is a bouncer checking IDs, an IPS is a security guard searching your pockets.
Okay. Searching pockets.
It looks at the actual content of the traffic. It uses a database of signatures, which are known patterns of attacks. If it sees a stream of data that looks like the code for a specific worm, it blocks it.
But there's a catch there, isn't there?
A big catch. It relies on known signatures. If a hacker writes a brand new virus today, a zero-day exploit, the IPS doesn't have a signature for it yet.
So it just lets it through.
It might let it right through because it looks like clean traffic.
That sounds like a serious gap. Is that where next-generation firewalls come in?
Exactly. Next-gen firewalls, or NGFW, and next-gen IPS go a lot deeper. They have application visibility and control, AVC.
What does that look like in practice?
Well, old firewalls just saw port 80 web traffic. They couldn't tell the difference between a business website and a game. A next-gen firewall sees this is Facebook traffic on port 80, or this is Farmville inside Facebook.
So it can block the game but allow the chat.
Precisely. And the source mentioned context awareness, which is huge for reducing false alarms.
Context awareness, how does that help?
If an IPS sees an attack designed to crash a Linux server, but it knows the target is a Windows computer, it doesn't need to panic. It knows the attack won't work. That's context.
That's incredibly smart.
It also uses reputation filtering, checking a global list of bad neighborhoods on the internet and blocking them automatically.
That is some high-tech defense right there. But now I want to take us to the last mile. We've secured the perimeter, we've secured the routers. What about the physical plug in the wall?
The switch port. This is honestly often the most neglected part of security. We just assume if you're inside the building, you're supposed to be there.
But what if a delivery guy plugs a laptop into a lobby jack?
Or an employee brings in an infected home laptop.
They bypass the firewall completely.
Completely. So how do we stop that? We use port security. It's a feature on the switch that acts like a bouncer for that specific cable. It identifies devices by their MAC address.
And the default setting is pretty strict, isn't it?
Very strict. Usually the default is maximum 1, meaning only one MSC address is allowed on this port.
So if you unplug the office printer and plug in your rogue laptop,
The switch sees a second MSC address.
violate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But typing in EV addresses manually for every single computer in a huge building would be a complete nightmare.
So we use sticky learning.
At Dicky Learning, yes. It's a quality of life feature. You configure the port, you plug in the legitimate device once, and the switch learns that EVAG address and literally sticks it to the configuration.
It saves the admin from typing it all in manually. Now, what happens when someone breaks the rules? When that second device plugs in, the source lists 3 violation modes.
Right. This is about how the switch reacts to the violation. First, there's shutdown. This is default. The port just turns off completely.
It just goes dark.
It goes into an Err-Disabled state. The user screams, and IT admin gets an alert, and someone usually has to manually go turn it back on. It's high impact and very visible.
Okay, so that's the nuclear option.
Then you have restrict. The port stays on, but it drops the traffic from the bad device. Crucially, it counts the violation and sends a log message to the admin.
So the admin knows something is happening.
Yes. And the third one is protect. This is the one you really have to be careful with.
Why is that?
It drops the bad traffic, but it stays silent. It doesn't log, it doesn't increment the violation counter.
Oh, I see the problem there. If a user complains my internet isn't working and you check the switch,
You see, the port is up, there are no errors, no logs. It looks perfectly fine.
it's a troubleshooting nightmare.
It really is. Restrict is usually preferred over personal set. Protect for that exact reason. You need to know when you're under attack.
That makes total sense. So we have unpacked a lot here today. We've gone from the physical layer with port security up through the network layer with firewalls and zones, all the way to the application layer with next-gen inspection.
And finally, the human layer with phishing training.
It's that defense in depth we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah, there is no silver bullet. You need the physical lock, the digital password, the intelligent firewall, and the educated user.
And looking at the trajectory of all this, we moved from clear text passwords to hashes, from simple firewalls to context-aware systems. It really feels like an endless game of cat and mouse.
It is an arms race. And actually, that brings up a really provocative thought to end on based on the research.
Oh, what's that?
Almost everything we discussed today, signatures, passwords, access lists, it all relies on knowing what bad looks like, or knowing who good is.
Right. We block known viruses. We allow known users.
It's a database of the past. But the attackers are starting to use AI. They're generating attacks that have never been seen before. Polymorphic code that changes every time it runs.
Wow.
If our defense relies entirely on a database of known threats, what happens when the threats are being invented in real time by a machine?
That is a very sobering thought. The defense of the future can't just be a static wall. It has to be an intelligence that learns as fast as the attacker does.
Exactly.
Well, on that slightly terrifying note, we want you to take a look at your own digital doors. Are you still using 123456 as a password? Is your home router still running the default settings? Check your logs, people.
Stay secure, everyone.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We will catch you on the next one.